right. We're a group of inbred international banking families intermarried with royalty, cold-bloodedly play three-dimensional chess, a global game of risk where entire nations, where hundreds of millions of people represent nothing more than pawns on a board. You know, we are in a matrix. But it's not a physical matrix where you're in a computerized, encased bubble being used for battery power to fund the very prison and very matrix you're in. That's an analogy for how our own tax money is used against us, how we kill ourselves to live. But through the television, through the corporate media, through the programming that is then regurgitated by our fellow Homo sapiens on the ground, we are more and more being inserted into a false reality where the language is being reduced semantically, where we're being taught false constructs, to where the general public is becoming biological androids that are almost impossible at this point to even communicate with, as George Orwell warned they would be. Or as Edward Bernays said that they would render us like sheep rebelling against the practice of eating mutton, which is young, juvenile sheep. Okay, here's the deal. I don't know if they're going to start World War III on the Korean Peninsula, in the central eastern part of Asia. I don't know if they're going to start World War III between Pakistan, India, and China. I don't know if they're going to launch another 888 like they did with NATO, the United States, and Israel on record launching a sneak attack on Russia and having such incredible disdain for the American people that they told us Russia had snuck attack, and most Americans still believe that, though they didn't think the Brits were that stupid. They admitted on the news the United States had snuck attacked Russia, but said Russia was wrong for defending itself. I mean, they think you're mighty dumb, folks. From Poland and the Czech Republic and Ukraine in the West, traveling east on a crescent through Georgia, through Turkey, through Iran, Iraq, Iran, into Pakistan and the stands. South of there you have India and Kashmir, and to the east China. And this is all the global grand chessboard. And they think so little of you and I that they openly publish their plans and laugh at us and call us slaves. It's very funny that they can publish their plans and that the public doesn't care. But they'll sure read an owner's manual for their car because that's part of their ego. But don't care enough about their bank account and their future. So they know as long as they throw milk and honey and circuses and more bread at you and more gladiatorial diversions, you won't wake up until it's too late, while they put in the technological enslavement, technocracy, and panopticon around us right now. But it's always more sophisticated than just black and white. You have the monolithic Anglo-American European power establishment that's enslaved Europe, enslaved the United States, Canada, Australia, England. We're dumbed down. We're indebted. We're controlled. We're used as slaves to fund and to fight for the global empire of the offshore banks, that while they're destroying the rest of the nation's sovereignty worldwide and getting people in debt or invading them, they're busy rendering us down to armless, legless, blind little creatures that can't resist. Like some type of weird, genetically engineered, eyeless, toothless, clawless, legless guinea pig that just has feeding tubes into his little mouth. And the ruling class are nothing but giant boa constrictors Nice analogy. That's about what it is. And we're almost rendered down to hairless, blind, little pink bloblets that are down in the warm incubating nest to be fed on by the tyrannical globalist who bragged 50 years ago. They started calling the boss Human Resource Department because we are a resource, a very cheap resource, now seen as a negative. What was the cartoon about a fictitious Eastern European communist country where the government's money actually has negative value and they've got to pay the mafia to take away the toxic crud? That's about what we're seen as. And as little blind food units to the elite, we even have learned to hate ourselves and feel like we're part of the elite. And there's a few guinea pigs that still have some dim sight and maybe half a leg to crawl around on as a rudderless flipper. And that's the police and the system, and it kind of prods around the rest of the immobilized slaves. Now, it doesn't have to be like this, but the New World Order says they're planning to start World War III with Russia and China, and they're going to use surrogates on record like Georgia and South Korea and the Taliban and Al-Qaeda that publicly work for the CIA on record. I mean, the Pakistani president went on NBC a month ago and said, "You're saying we're helping Al-Qaeda? How dare you? You founded Al-Qaeda and the Taliban to attack the Russians." Yeah, they started it with the Russians in '79. And you're using them to destabilize us. How dare you say we're working with them? That government's on the verge of falling with Taliban and Al-Qaeda forces encircling their three major cities. And then when they're done, Al-Qaeda will step back as usual after doing their CIA job, and the West will pour in the tens of thousands of troops to take over the major cities, and it will become Islamic republics, as promised to the Saudi Arabians, as Iraq has now fallen to the Islamo-fascist. So will Pakistan. And there will be no longer secular TV or radio. Women will no longer be the college graduates. Thank you so much for joining us, my friends. Your calls are coming up. Toll free, 877-590-5525, 877-590-5525. And I'm going to finish up with what's happening across the world as suddenly these conflicts, or the threat of thermonuclear conflagration conflict, begins to flare up everywhere. Then I'll tell you about some of the other news that's coming up later in this 2-hour abbreviated Sunday transmission. And then we'll go to your phone calls. Now, whenever we sit here and we talk about the United States or England or Germany or Russia or China, when I break down what's happening on a geopolitical level, I don't have a dog in the fight, a dog in the hunt, as they say. Most people, when they look at an issue of like Iraq and the United States, they say, well, who do I identify with? And then I will look at the issues and decide who I'm going to support, if it's good for my interest or good for my ego. Oh, well, I'm for America, red, white, and blue. Kill them Iraqis. Never understanding that Saddam Hussein in 1958 was hired by the CIA on record, trained in assassination, carried out a bunch of assassinations, led forces trying to overthrow the Iraqi government. Then in '68, they made a deal with the United States to stop trying to overthrow them if they put Saddam Hussein in as deputy president, head of security. He then staged a coup in '79, launched an attack against the Ayatollah Khomeini, totally U.S. government-backed, on record. He was told to use nerve gas. He was given satellite photos and told where to spray and how to spray. And then our media says, oh, he's bad years later for using the nerve gas when the United States helped give him a lot of the nerve gas. So, see, it's hypocritical. Saddam Hussein is bad, and the people running the United States are bad. Not, well, I'm red, white, and blue, so I'm against that Saddam. Let's kill over 1 million Iraqis. Let's bring them freedom. When the truth is, it's the grand chessboard. When Iran is strong, the West goes in and funds Saddam to attack them. They kill 1.5 million Iranians in that war and 300,000 Iraqis. It goes on for 8 years. To know what's happening currently and in the future, you got to know the past.